Good morning, and we are in section 95 still. We're going to finish it today, but we've also got some reading. This is House of Our God. It's written about what the temple here. It's part of the extra um, uh, revelations in context, and so we'll look at this. Uh, Try to go through part of it today, probably part of it tomorrow, and some of it later on in the year. On July 1st, 1833, Joseph Smith received a revelation that contained a stern rebuke. Ye have sinned against me, a grievous sin. The Lord declared in that ye have not considered the great commandment in all things that I have given you concerning the building of mine house. We read that yesterday. Um, that great commandment had come 5 months earlier in a lengthy revelation Joseph Smith called the olive leaf. It had directed the saints to organize themselves and establish a house of prayer, a house of fasting, a house of faith, a house of learning, and house of glory, and house of order, and house of God, taken together with instructions to teach one another and seek learning even by study and also by faith. Joseph Smith and the elders in Kirtland understood the revelation to deliver twofold mandate. They were to build an house of God and establish a school of the prophets. Joseph Smith and the saints in Kirtland began acting on this instruction almost immediately, but in June 1st, Revelation indicated that they still had only a dim understanding of what it would ultimately mean or of the enormous sacrifices it would require. Now, what I'm getting from this is the Lord was pretty patient with them. He told them, build a house of God, and instead of saying, a house of God, what do you mean by that, and how are we going to do it? And ask those questions. They did what they would. Okay, we're going to build a house or a school or whatever. Um, and we'll do it after we've done this or that. Because remember, they did the School of Prophets almost went immediately. Within weeks of the uh, olive leaf revelation, the School of Prophets was well underway. Um, with as many as 25 men meeting in a small room in the Noel K. Whitney store. The school adjourned for the season by April 1833, and Joseph and the brethren turned their attention to practical aspects of fulfilling the revelation. Land purchases were soon finalized, and men were appointed to oversee various industries on the properties. Uh, like they had a brick making area in there. Um, if you look in the notes there, it says that Frederick G. Williams was appointed to see the brick making work in the newly purchased property and serve as agent in renting the farmland. So you see that there was different things going on there. So we're talking on that they had started something, but it wasn't like, okay, we're building a house of God. What does a house of God look like? Or anything like that. On May 4th, a conference of high priests met to consider the necessity of building a schoolhouse for the purpose of accommodating the elders who should come and receive their education for the ministry. So they're thinking, well, we have met in this small room above the Whitney store, um, but really we need something more significant. So they're thinking schoolhouse. They've missed the thought that it's the house of God. Hiram Smith, Jared Carter, and Reynolds Cahoon were appointed a committee to obtain subscriptions for the purpose of erecting such a building. Though the building would come to be known as the Kirtland Temple, the saints in 1833 did not yet know they were building a temple. They had read of temples in the Bible and the Book of Mormon, but they still knew little about them. 2 years um, earlier, the revelation had indicated that a temple would be built in Jackson County, Missouri. Again, that's one where they're so concentrated on everything else, they forgot that it was said there was a temple to be built. What was a temple? How are they going to build it? And yet 2 years go by and nothing's been done. Joseph Smith himself helped set the cornerstone in 1831, but almost no progress had been made, and further revelations give only faint view of what the purpose of the temple was to be. They were not preparing their minds for the temple. Um, in my life, I understand that a little bit. If I get an assignment or something and it's very vague, sometimes it's very difficult to want to or difficult to continue with that um, assignment properly. It becomes half-hearted if it's not given clearly. Um, and as I work with people at work as a man in management, I found that if you don't give them specific instructions, often they will not do the thing which you expect them to do because they don't know what they're doing and they're not gonna just do it. So you know those things are there, but the Lord is being patient with them. He's waiting for them to go, oh wait, a temple, a house of God. What does that actually mean? And then he floods them with these revelations. But he does have to remind them as well. So Joseph Smith had helped set this cornerstone, but almost no progress had been made, and further revelations gave only a faint view of what the purpose of the temples was to be. So they just weren't seeking to know more. The records from spring of 1833 show that the saints were thinking of the Kirtland House primarily as a schoolhouse, not necessarily connecting their command with the temple in Zion. And think if they would have, even those in Kirtland, if they were thinking along the lines of how can we help Zion build the temple, perhaps that would have helped as well. I don't know. Uh, Now in the June, the problem was is that there was just too much tension between the two that they didn't even get a chance to discuss that when they're discussing matters of dissension and not sticking together. That it could have been, okay, we're building a temple here, yet they were distracted by other things. And I'll come back to that in a second. Um, in the June 1st revelation, declared that Joseph Smith um, and the saints had not sufficiently considered the urgency and importance of the commandment. That revelation, now Doctrine and Covenants 95, which we're reading today and yesterday, gave some indication of the bigger picture. It revealed that in the house of the Lord, in the house, the Lord would endow those whom I have chosen with power from on high, connecting the construction of the house with the promised endowment of power. Notice the promised endowment was way back in Doctrine and Covenants 38. Um, and that was in 1831, almost 2.5 years before, well, 2 years at least, but almost 2.5. Yeah, almost 2.5. Anyway, it specified the interior dimensions of the building, 55 feet wide by 65 feet long, and described the functions of the upper and lower floors in the inner court, a phrase that evoked images of the biblical temple in Jerusalem. The revelation also promised further instruction. The house was to be built not after the manner of the world, but after the manner which I shall show unto the three of you, whom ye shall appoint and ordain to this power. So, who are the three? Well, right here, Joseph Smith and his counselors, Sidney Rigdon and Frederick G. Williams, were duly appointed to obtain a draft or construction of the inner court of the house. Williams later described the ensuing vision. We went upon our knees. We remembered, he remembered, called on the Lord, and the building appeared within viewing distance, I being the first to discover it. Then all of us viewed it together, and after we had taken a good look of the exterior, the building seemed to come right over us. The finished building, he said, seemed to coincide with that I there saw to a minutia. See how that works. See, we often have um, people try to put Joseph Smith's revelations and so forth down to hysteria or something like that. But if you see this, this is not a hysteria. It's not a wild vision or anything like this. They saw a building, they were able to examine it, and then they were able to see the inside enough that they could draw things down and give direction in what needs to be built. That to me is not somebody that is just trying to um, convince people that he's seeing things when he's not. This is someone who, with other people, are seeing visions and understanding them, and not some sort of hysteria either. One fundamental question settled by this vision was the matter of what materials to use in building the house. Lucy Mack Smith remembered a council meeting in which it was decided that a frame building would be too expensive. A log house was proposed instead. See, this is again where they did not understand what they're doing. It's amazing when we're looking back and we think about the temples, what they are, what we knowledge we've gained and the power we've gained um, from them to this, where they don't know what they're doing. They're thinking they're building a schoolhouse still. Joseph Smith reminded them that they were not making a house for themselves or any other man, but a house for God. He said, "And shall we, brethren, build a house for our God of logs? No, brethren, I have a better plan than that. I have a plan, I have the plan of the house of the Lord given by himself." Lucy remembered Joseph saying that this plan would show them the difference between our calculations and his ideas. The brethren were delighted when Joseph described the full plan, which envisioned a stone structure. So that's as far as we'll go. We'll do the next one and plan for the stake, a city of the stake of Zion next. But you see, they're going from a log cabin to a stone structure. And there's some amazing stuff that goes on in the building of that, which is in this article as well, but it's well beyond what we need to know right now. So we're going to go back. And I like some of the pictures in here as well. This is a reconstruction of the sawmill in Kirtland. One thing I was noticing, so this front part here is a reconstruction of an unfinished um, uh, um, pulpit area of the Kirtland Temple, showing how they would have been building it in this sawmill. Um, Great reconstruction. What I love about the sawmill is that it again shows that it's very crudely made. You see the gaps in the walls, and um, it's there on the site for one purpose, and that is um, to build the temple. So you got this. I love the contrast of the walls that are just crudely built but sturdy, and this really fine detail that they're putting on these pulpits. Just thought I'd throw that in there. And then I think that's a picture of Kirtland, Ohio, in about, well, between 1897 and 1927. Um, I thought there was a picture in here as well. Yeah, we'll talk about this tomorrow anyway, but the map of um, the city of Zion with the temple in the center, which we'll hear more about. Anyway, we have not even got into the scriptures yet. Well, we have sort of, because we've read some of the things. So we've read all the stuff about that they were in basically in trouble because they have not considered the commandment he had been given them. They've been given them. I'm going to start on 11 just because we only have a few verses anyway. Um, so verse 11, verily I say unto you, this is what we read a little bit yesterday, but well, I say unto you, it is my will that you should build a house. If you keep my commandments, you shall have power to build it. Very important to know that you can have that power to build the temple. If you keep not my commandments, the love of the Father shall not continue with you. Therefore, you shall walk in darkness. Now that, when you hear that, you're going, but doesn't he still love us? What? Why would he take his love away? Um, First of all, it's the fact that they're not keeping the commandments. But look, if we look at the footnote there, I think we get a better idea. This is in 1 John. He that loveth his brother abideth in the light, and there is none occasion for stumbling in him. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. So I think from that scripture, it gives you a good idea that what it's saying is the love of the Father is there, but we're not giving it a place to abide in us, to continue with us. He will give all his love to us, but we need to receive it. He's not going to force upon us anything. The same when we show our love for our children or for those around us, if they do not accept that love, it's up to them, not us. We may still love them and care for them, but whether they can truly feel that love is up to them, not us. And the love of the Father is the same. He loves all of his children, and he will always love them, but he will not force that love upon anyone. He gives it freely, but we need to be able to take it as well. If you keep, okay, now here is wisdom and the mind of the Lord. Let the house be built, not after the manner of the world. For I give unto you that ye shall live after the manner of the world. I give not, sorry, I read that 3 times earlier and kept missing that. I give not unto you that ye shall live after the manner of the world. And truly, when I look at the interior of the temple, it doesn't look like a type of any church that I know of. It might be. I'm not going to, if somebody mentions it, then I stand corrected, but it's not even after any of the churches that we have today. Um, not even really most of the temples that we have today because the function of the temple has changed. We may talk about that later sometime. Therefore, let it be built after the manner which I shall show unto 3 of you, whom ye shall appoint and ordain unto this power. So we've got that wonderful thing where the vision that we already talked about comes to those 3, um, to the first presidency, Joseph Smith, Sidney Rigdon, and Frederick G. Williams. And then he gives some specifics, and the size thereof shall be 50 and 5 feet in width, and let it be 60 and 5 feet in length, in the inner court thereof. And let the lower part of the inner court be dedicated unto me for your sacrament. Now look how he tells them exactly what they want it for your sacrament offering, for your preaching, and for your fasting, and your praying, and offering up your most holy desires unto me, saith your Lord. Now notice some of it is not, this is not exactly the same as the temples that we will see later on. And that's because in order for them to be endowed on high and to get this knowledge of temples, they needed a temple to start with. And that's what this temple was for. And let the higher part of the inner court be dedicated unto me for the school of mine apostles, saith the Son, Amen, or in other words, Alphas, or in other words, Omegas, even Jesus Christ, your Lord. Amen. Powerful um, words about the temple. Now, I said earlier that they were not catching the vision. They were not um, building the temple or looking to build the temple because they are so caught up in their own lives and their own things that they needed to do. In our time, we are seeing more temples built than ever before, temples announced at a rate never, ever seen before. Um, Even in my lifetime, it has just increased exponentially. And with that comes a great outpouring of the Spirit that we are just starting to see and understand. And the prophet is saying, can you see what's happening? He wants us to see the vision, just like Joseph Smith sitting in that room where they're talking about building a temple of logs and saying, no, can't you see the vision? We've seen this vision. We've seen the house that needs to be built. And this is what we're going to build. If we can catch the same vision and understand what the temple is to us and make the temple the center of our lives, that will be of a great worth. Yet, so often we will get caught up, I know from experience, get caught up in the things that we feel that we need to get done first and never seem to get around to doing building the temple or building the temple in our hearts and our lives. I think we can do better and be ready and go to the house of the Lord more often, or if not more often, in a more prepared and sacred way that would really strengthen us and help us to feel the Lord's presence and, in essence, see His face. So I hope we can prepare to go to the temple more often and be closer to the Lord in this. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I did that again. Sometimes I can't get out of this very easily.